So I know we just said we're putting kibosh on Oscar movies, but I did watch an Oscar movie this week, or at least an Oscar nominee. It was the international film nominee from Ireland, which is an English language speaking country, except there is an Irish language. And the Irish language nominee was The Quiet Girl. And this is a movie that got really great reviews, so much so that on our Oscar pre-show, I kind of liked the plus 1,000 on it because it had such strong reviews. Obviously, All Quiet, of course, swept that category and several other categories. But this is a movie that is set in Ireland in 1981. And I would say the majority of the movie is in the Irish language, although parts of it are in English. And it tells the story of a quiet girl. And in the movie, she's about 10 years old. Her name is Kat. And in the movie, she's living in a pretty dysfunctional household. Her parents are, borderline abusive, borderline neglectful. She has lots of siblings. And at the beginning of the movie, we basically kind of see her go through a typical day and struggle. And she retreats. And that's why she's quiet, because of all the kind of dysfunction around her. And then she's sent off to distant relatives. And their relatives' names are Eileen and Sean. And not Siobhan, although there is a character named Siobhan in the movie, interestingly enough. But as she begins to interact with these kind of strange, distant relatives, they discover sort of an interesting dynamic between the three of them. Eileen says early on, there's no secrets in this house, but obviously there is a secret in the house. And the young girl sort of uncovers that secret gradually. We get to hear about it a little bit. The result that ensues is a quiet girl who kind of comes of age in this very starkly different environment from the household and the world that she was growing up in. This movie blew me away. I went into it knowing that it got good reviews, knowing it got the Oscar nomination. I know Terry had seen it on our last episode. I think it's better to go into this movie with pretty little knowledge of it, like I did. This movie is absolutely beautiful. It tells a story that is not complicated in its plot. It's complicated in the emotions of the characters and the backstories of the characters, which are sort of revealed, but not really, because the movie comes from a child's perspective. The movie is... there are shades of After Sun in this movie, which is also a coming of age story with a young girl in Ireland and kind of a distant parent. And this movie is, in the broad strokes, it's like After Sun, but it's also beautifully different than After Sun. After Sun had sort of an agenda to it because it was told in the recollections of this girl who eventually grew up. This movie is totally set within the world of Ireland in 1981, so much so that the movie is shot in this Academy ratio, which is almost symbolic of the fact that this girl, Kat, is unable to see anything past the world around her. But it is a coming-of-age story. To me, there were elements of Kramer versus Kramer in this movie, in the sense of just a beautiful kind of three-act structure and about the complex relationships between parents and children. To me, there's also a bit of even Matilda, which I know you guys aren't a fan of, but I kind of love Matilda in the sense of a child realizing that there is more to the world than the, again, neglectful and ignorant people that are in her immediate surroundings. By the end of this movie, you're moved. I was surprised by how much I was invested in the characters. The movie really does it in a sly, subtle way. And the tears at the end of the movie are deserved. They're not forced. The last words in the movie, it's one word, but it's spoken twice, has such profound, I think, symbolism. There's a lot of great symbolism in this movie. There's not a lot of dialogue in it. It's beautifully, there's almost a Japanese quality to it. I was almost reminded of the films of Ozu or Koreeda and how simple the story was and how little dialogue there was necessary to convey the complex emotions. This is easily a 4-star movie, and it's the best movie I have seen since Uncut Gems. And it's my number one of 2022.
Yeah, I saw this movie a couple weeks ago, and I know you texted me as soon as you saw it and said how awesome you thought it was. And it is an amazing movie. Where did I put? I think I put it in like number 7 on my top 10 of last year, or 6 or 5 or somewhere in there.
Below A Man Called Otto.
Yeah, it is. Anyways, but no, you're right in everything you said. It's so beautiful, and it's beautiful in its simplicity. And that's what's so great about that movie. And yeah, I just love uh, I loved it. I loved everything about that one. I told you I was still kind of processing it because I wasn't quite sure what I was thinking of it quite yet, and how great it actually was, because it kind of catches you by surprise how great it is.
Yeah. And what's funny about it is, and I don't want to say too much because I know Todd will watch it, and I think the joy in the movie is really kind of finding it out for yourself. But the first 20 minutes of this movie are kind of hard to get into. You're not exactly sure what's happening. And I gradually realized that was an intentional action by the director. It's also kind of scary and refreshing to have a movie where you're about 45 minutes in, an hour in, and you're still not really sure what is motivating the characters. Like, we're so used to these kind of cookie cutter plots in movies where it's very clear what the goal is, what the motivation is for the characters, and what their obstacles are. And when you're watching this movie, particularly with the three main characters, you're not sure what the goals are, and it's kind of scary in a way. But it's so refreshing. It's so unpredictable. I was reminded of that terrible Nicole Kidman quote at the end of the AMC ad, which Todd has never seen, but she says, heartbreak feels good here. And that's the way that I felt about The Quiet Girl. It absolutely devastated me watching this movie. It devastated everyone in the theater I was in too. And it's the best kind of devastation, the best kind of heartbreak. And it's a movie that has completely ruined any movie I've watched since then because I can't stop thinking about it.
Well, you went to go see an Irish movie on St. Patrick's Day.
That's true.
I assume you probably, yeah, probably.
Well, and then I texted Terry that we need to come up with our best Irish movie because we've had so many great Irish movies just this year, and of course we all love Once, and there's a lot of great ones, but this to me, and I think there's a little bit of parallels with Banshees too. Again, I want to hear your thoughts, Todd, but I'd be curious. There's like I haven't even talked about the language. I haven't talked about the setting. I mean, there's so many great, the cinematography, the music. That to me is. I'm sorry, it's going to mess up all of our Almost Sideways awards. I would nominate it in every single category if I could, but it's a great movie.